Hi guys, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about my November TBR. First up, in the month of November, I will be taking part in 2 readathons. The first is Believe-a-thon, which is hosted by Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin. I posted my TBR video of that yesterday, so I will leave that linked in the description below in case you want to check that out. The other readathon I will be taking part in is the 1000 Doors readathon. This is like a choose your own adventure readathon, and it is being hosted by Meg, Tasman, and Emma, and I will leave their channels and announcement videos linked in the description below. Since it's a choose your own adventure, until we get the videos that allow us to make the choices, I have no idea what I'm going to be reading for that readathon, though I'm really excited to participate. I loved choose your own adventure books when I was a kid, so this seems like a really fun way to choose what book I'm going to be reading next. I also have done my TBR game. This is the second month I will be doing Phase 10 Chooses My TBR. I completed all of the books I had to read for last month, and so therefore I will not be facing any punishments. I also participated in Historathon and the Phoenix Writers Readathon last month, and I managed to get through all of the books I plan to read for both of those readathons. So let's jump into Phase 10 Chooses My TBR. If you haven't watched last month's video where I explain how this works, I will link it in the description below. But basically, I'm playing a game of Phase 10, and each card corresponds with a different prompt, and when those cards get drawn, I have to choose that prompt, and there's a couple of special cards in the deck that if I draw them, I have to do certain things when they're drawn. So as you can see, we're still set up from last time. I have my set of 9s and my set of 10s. I have my draw cards, assuming they stay up. And I have my deck over here. The cards from the prompts from last month are no longer in the deck. I've taken them out so that I'm not repeating prompts, though I will be switching them up, obviously, so it wouldn't be repeating prompts, but so I can hopefully eventually complete the phase. I'm removing cards from last month from the deck. So let's see what my first card is going to be. We have a red 3. So first up, I drew a red 3. The prompt for this card was to read a new to you author. For this, I chose to read The Crooked Sixpence by Jennifer Bell. This is the middle grade monthly book pick, which is hosted by Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin and Jade from JD Raid Reads. I will link their channels and the middle grade monthly Twitter below. Let's see. When the underguards show up, officers brandishing toilet brushes, Ivy Sparrow and her older brother Seb go tumbling into a world that is anything but ordinary. Welcome to Londonor, a secret underground city where enchanted objects are capable of extraordinary things. Uncommon bells chime in to offer directions. Uncommon sewing needles double as surveillance cameras with pinpoint accurate eyes. And flying uncommon belts will do in a pinch if you're in need of a quick getaway. Which Ivy almost always is, especially when members of the nefarious guild called the Dirge step out of the shadows. Their calling card, the Crooked Sixpence. The Dirge will stop at nothing to reclaim their former power, even if it means kidnapping Ivy's parents. With time running out and a host of foul creatures on the attack, Ivy races to uncover the greatest uncommon treasure of them all. If only she knew what she was looking for. I knew nothing prior to reading the description, but I figured since it was the middle grade monthly book pick and I wanted to read it anyways, and I've never read a book by this author, it was perfect for this prompt. Next, we have a red 12. Next, I drew a red 12. The prompt for this was to randomize my TBR. Okay, so to randomize my TBR, I have my physical TBR from 2019, and I have my physical TBR from 2020. So we will go to a random number generator. Change this to 87, and now we're going to generate a book. 37, so that would be on this one. Okay, then I am reading All That I Can Fix by Crystal Chan. As you saw, the book I got for that is All I Can Fix by Crystal Chan. I know nothing about this book as it was randomly picked off my TBR, but I guess I'll be reading it in the month of November. Next, a blue 5. Next up, I drew a blue 5. The prompt for blue 5 was to read a book over 500 pages. For this, I'm choosing Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. This is the 3rd book in the Diviners series, and when I saw that I had to read a big chunky book, I thought that this was the perfect time to pick up the next book in this series. Then we have a skip. So this is the first time we have gotten a skip. This skip means I get to skip one of the 10 prompts for books this month. This is definitely going to come in handy. Next up, I drew the skip card. This means that I got to skip one of the books that was picked for my TBR in November. After reading all of the prompts and picking out all of my books, I decided that I was going to use this prompt on All That I Can Fix. When I sat down to read the description for this book, I knew that I didn't want to read this book this month. It literally starts with, in Makersville, Indiana, people know all about Ronnie. He's from that mixed race family with the dad who tried to kill himself, the pill popping mom, and the genius kid sister. Right there, I was already like, I'm not sure this is a good book for me to read this month. However, as I kept reading, I knew that I definitely didn't want to read this book this month. It continues. If having a family like that wasn't bad enough, the local eccentric at the edge of town decided one night to open up all the cages of his exotic zoo, including lions, cheetahs, and tigers, and then shoot himself dead. Go figure. Even more proof that you can't trust adults to do the right thing. So now we've had mention of a suicide attempt and an actual suicide, and I definitely was thinking this book was not for me this month. And if I wasn't sure then, this next part definitely cinched it. Overnight, news crews, gun control supporters, and gun rights advocates descend on Makersville, bringing round-the-clock news coverage, rallies, and anti-rallies with them. That, for me, cinched it. I like to read to kind of escape reality, and this seems a little too close to some of the stuff that is going on in the real world, and that on top of the attempted suicide and the actual suicide meant that if I hadn't gotten a skip this month, I wouldn't have read this book anyways, and I would have taken the punishment next month. I'm sure this might be a perfectly great book to read. I'm just not in the right headspace to read it right now. Next. And next we have a wild, which means I will have to roll a die to determine how many extra prompts I have to do, so that skip is coming in especially handy. Next up, I drew a wild. We will obviously be seeing more for what this does to my TBR later in this video. Next, a green 2. Next, I drew a green 2. The prompt for this book is light cover. For this, I will be reading Voyage of the Frost Heart by Jamie Littler. I don't think you can get much lighter than this cover, given that it's all white. I know nothing about this book, so let's find out. Way out in the farthest, most frozen part of the world, destiny is calling on Ash. Ever since his parents disappeared in the snowy expanse beyond their town, Ash has known he doesn't belong among the Fira. He's, well, different. But when a hidden magic bursts out of him and changes his life forever, his quest for his parents becomes a lot more urgent. Enter the Frostheart, a snow-worthy sleigh captained by a peg-legged walrus and a ragtag crew of misfits. On board, he meets a spunky navigator who can talk his ear off as fast as she can plot a sleigh's course, daring explorers who aren't afraid of the monsters that lurk under the ice, and a mysterious traveler who holds the secrets to powerful magic. Joining the Frostheart might be Ash's only chance to find his parents and find out who he truly is. So this seems like it's going to be quite the interesting book, and I'm looking forward to reading it in November. A yellow 1. Next up, I drew a yellow 1, and the prompt for this book is to finish a series. For this, I'm going to be reading Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the last book in the Caraval trilogy. I read book 2 last month and really enjoyed it, and am looking forward to seeing how the series ends. Next, a green 11. Next up, I drew a green 11, and for this, I had to spin a color wheel. Okay, here we have a random color wheel. Whatever color it lands on is going to be the main color that the book has to be. Blue. Okay, I need to find a mostly blue book. As you saw, I got blue, so for this, I will be reading Brightstorm by Vashti Hardy. This cover is mostly blue, so I think it counts. Remember what Dad said? Don't call it a dream, call it a plan. There's always a way, Maud. There has to be. Arthur and Maudie Brightstorm are devastated to learn that their famous explorer father has died in a failed attempt to reach South Polaris, the southernmost point in the world. To make matters worse, the Lawntown Geographical Society finds Ernest Brightstorm guilty of sabotaging the expedition of his competitor, Eudora Vane, a respected and powerful member of the society. But then a mysterious clue leads the twins to question the story they've been told. Joining the ragtag crew of the Aurora, a homemade skyship captained by the intrepid Harriet Culpepper, Arthur and Maudie race to South Polaris to salvage their family's reputation. As the skyship sets sail, the twins must keep their wits about them if they are to uncover the truth about what happened on their father's doomed expedition, and to prove themselves worthy explorers. So this sounds like it's going to be quite the interesting book, given that we are flying on a ship through the sky, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of adventures Arthur and Maudie get up to. Now we've got a red 5. Next up, I drew a red 5, and the prompt for this is pull pick. So, after this video goes live, I will be putting up a poll on my Twitter with options for you guys to choose a book for me to read. Your 4 choices are Night Books by J.A. White. This is a middle grade, and it says, Alex has loved scary stories his whole life. Now he's trapped in one. So it sounds like this kid Alex is going to have to maybe figure out how to get out of the scary stories he's now trapped in. Option 2 is A Tale of Witchcraft by Chris Colfer. This is the sequel to A Tale of Magic and will be continuing to see Bristol's adventures. The third option is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is about Addie LaRue, who makes a deal to get immortality, but does not realize the consequences are that everyone she's ever met will forget her. She goes on like this until one day, hundreds of years later, she bumps into somebody who does remember her. And then the last option is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I've put this on here because it's one of Murphy Napier's favorite books. I'll link her channel down below. And she just raves about how good these books are in this series, and I've been meaning to pick up the first one for a while now. So those are your 4 options. Please go vote in the poll and help me choose what book I'm going to be reading this month. Yellow 2. Next up, I drew a yellow 2. The prompt for this one is to try again author. This means I have to take an author I have either DNF'd a book from or given their book 1 star and try a different book by them. If I've already tried another book by them and loved it, then they don't count. It has to be a author who I've never given a book higher than 1 star to. I went through all of my 1 stars and my DNFs, and I've decided that this month I will be reading The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I read The Starless Sea a while back, and I was not a fan. I did not like that book. From the sounds of it, I don't have a lot of high hopes that I'm going to like this one either, but I might as well give it a try, and then I'll know for sure. So I have my die here, and whatever number it lands on is how many extra prompts I have to draw. Let's see. And we have 5. Okay. That skip is going to come in mighty handy. First up for my extra prompts, a green 5. Next, I drew a green 5. For this, I have to start a series. I decided to pick up The Book Wanderers by Anna James. Ever since her mother's disappearance, 11-year-old Tilly Pages has found comfort in the stories at Pages & Co., her grandparents' bookshop. But when her favorite characters, Anne of Green Gables and Alice from Wonderland, start showing up at the shop, Tilly's adventures become very real. Not only can she follow Anne and Alice into their books, she discovers she can book wander into any story she chooses. Tilly's surprising new ability leads her to fun and exciting adventures, but danger may be lurking on the very next page. When new secrets are uncovered, it's up to Tilly to solve the mystery of what happened to her mother all those years ago. This sounds like it's going to be an intriguing start to a series. I am quite looking forward to picking this up. My second is a blue 6. Next up, I drew a blue 6. The prompt for this was to read a middle grade. I was excited when I drew this prompt, as I obviously, with Believe-a-thon, already have a ton of middle grade on my TBR, but I wanted to branch out a little. I heard that this month there was another readathon called Indigathon. This is being hosted by Brody and Michelle, and I will link their channels and the Indigathon Twitter down below. I decided to use this prompt to make sure that I had an Indigenous author on my TBR. Even though I can't participate in Indigathon, as I'm already planning on participating in Believe-a-thon and the 1000 Doors readathon, and adding a third readathon in there would be way too many books on my TBR. So for this, I'm going to be reading I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day. According to Goodreads, inspired by her family's history, Christine Day tells the story of a girl who uncovers her family's secrets and finds her own Native American identity. All her life, Edie has known that her mom was adopted by a white couple. So, no matter how curious she might be about her Native American heritage, Edie is sure her family doesn't have any answers. Until the day when she and her friends discover a box hidden in the attic, a box full of letters signed Love, Edith, and photos of a woman who looks just like her. Suddenly, Edie has a flurry of new questions about this woman who shares her name. Could she belong to the Native family that Edie never knew about? But if her mom and dad have kept this secret from her all her life, how can she trust them to tell her the truth now? This sounds like a very intriguing book, and I am really glad to be able to get an Indigenous author on my TBR this month. The third. Ooh, I can put this down with my 9s. And I will go with a red 4. Next, I drew a red 4. For this, I had to read a sequel. This was perfect because I want to read Aru Shah and the Song of Death by Rushani Chokshi. This is the second book in the series. I read the first book last month and really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of what Aru and Minnie and Boo get up to in this next book. Next is a green 7. Next up, I drew a green 7. The prompt for this book is to read a book with green on the cover. For this, I am hoping to read Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. This is the third book in the Nevermore series. It just came out in the US and I've requested it from my library, so whether I can read this book or not will depend on how quickly my library gets that book to me. I know that there's no guarantee I will get it, so I have a backup just in case I don't get my hands on it, and if I can't read Hollowpox, then I will be reading Poison is Not Polite by Robin Stevens. This is the second book in the Murder Most Unladylike series, and it follows Daisy and Hazel as they uncover whatever mysteries are going on in their boarding school. As you can see, there's plenty of green on the cover, so it will certainly fulfill this prompt. And hopefully, lastly, a green 4. Next, I drew a green 4, which is space on the cover. For this, I'm choosing to read Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. As you can see, we have a moon, what looks like stars. This definitely has space elements on the cover. I believe this follows 2 women who are trying to escape a curse that's been placed on their family. But the harder they try to get away, the more they get drawn back in. So I'm quite curious to see how things play out in this book. Not to mention, I'm drawn in by the cover. Even if there wasn't space on the cover, this cover makes me want to pick up this book anyways. So Forgotten Draw number 1, this is the card that should have been drawn to cover my skip. And it is a blue 2. Next, I drew a blue 2. For this, I had to read an old favorite author. This prompt means that I have to read an author that I've loved for a long time. So for this, I'm going with Tall Star's Revenge by Aaron Hunter. I've been reading Aaron Hunter books for a long, long time. I'm currently trying to reread all the books in their series that I've already read, while also reading all of the books in their series that I haven't read before. This is one I haven't read before, so I'm quite looking forward to finding out about Tall Star's life and his story, as he's not a cat that I have spent a lot of time with in the books I have read. And this is the card that should have been drawn to cover my wild. Oh, it's a 9. Okay, I will replace it with a blue 5. And lastly, I drew a blue 5. For this, I have to read a reread, and this is perfect as I will be reading Midnight by Aaron Hunter. This is one of the books I've read by her, and it is the first book in the second arc of 6 in the Warrior series. From what I can remember, I really liked this book the first time through, and I'm guessing that there is no reason why I won't enjoy it again this time. So these are some of the books I'm going to be reading in the month of November, plus whatever book you guys pick for me in my poll pick. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Are you guys participating in any readathons? If so, let me know which ones and what you're reading in the comments below. If you've made it this far in this video, leave me some book emojis in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!